Both One Punch Man and Invincible have a lot of similarities considering they both have a unique spin on your typical superhero story. Originally, we were going to do Boros vs Thrag, but I decided to expand the video into a more broad discussion as it's the Invincible heroes going up against Boros and his army. With me today, I have none other than Jaded.
What's up, guys? It's Jaded.
And he's here to help me break down Invincible scaling while I'm here to slander Boros. Now let's waste no time and dive into Boros' scaling because I've been itching to tell you guys how trash this man really is. Okay, he's not trash, but he's definitely not as strong as a lot of you make him out to be. Now, Boros' best scaling comes from an anime guide statement that suggests his star cannon can in fact destroy a star. However, we see in not only the anime but also the original material, aka the manga, along with other guidebooks for both the anime and manga, that confirm that Boros with his star cannon is at best destroying the planet. This, even to me, is shaky because the manga even suggests that Boros is not even destroying the planet, but rather threatening it as he's destroying the planet's surface and not the planet itself. And we also have calculations of Saitama's Serious Punch, which not only obliterated Boros' strongest move, but even split the clouds, which had about over 56 petatons of force, which comes out to around multi-continental. I think Boros in the manga at best would downscale from this massively, considering he literally died from this attack. But if you wanted to push the anime's planetary interpretation, then sure, he's a planet buster with its strongest attack. However, the main problem with Boros is that his best scaling comes from his strongest move and in a form that he can only use for 1 minute before overloading his body completely. Both armored and base Boros have no scaling whatsoever. Like, the only thing I can really see is that he was probably more of a challenge than Carnage Kabuto and I guess the meteor from season 1, which was going to wipe out a city. But in One Punch Man, the cities are ridiculous in size, with some of them even being the size of countries. However, these two forms are not relevant to the discussion at all when facing the Invincible verse, as you guys will see later on. A lot of people are probably going to bring up this statement shown in the online version of the manga, which, yeah, this doesn't exist in the physical manga. So really, Saitama took no damage when fighting Boros, and this was even confirmed by the end of the fight. I've also seen the interpretation of the statement of saying, oh, he took damage, actually being Boros just him talking to himself, because throughout the fight he thinks he's finally pushing Saitama when in reality he didn't phase him, which isn't a bad interpretation, but I mean, who really cares, because once again, this page doesn't exist. And also, that one statement of Saitama getting clobbered doesn't make sense either, considering Boros at the end of the fight as well says he didn't phase him. Which is why I don't think Boros is nearly as strong as people think he is. All of his quote-unquote feats on Saitama aren't really even feats because Saitama is holding back. Which then leads us into speed, which is also kind of hard to break down for Boros, considering Saitama doesn't showcase any crazy speed feats by this point in the series. So we can't use the scaling of Garo and Flashy Flash and Platinum S making light constructs or anything like that because, again, Saitama is ridiculously suppressed in this fight. The only thing that we can really say for Boros is that he would upscale from his minions who are able to throw rocks at sub-light speeds, and him kicking Saitama to the moon was calced at relativistic speeds. So it wouldn't be ridiculous to say that Boros at his peak is at least approaching or even reaching the speed of light. But in all honesty, this is the best scaling I can give to Boros. And for those who are going to be crying in the comments saying that he's basically the second strongest guy other than Garo, please show me a speed feat for armored Boros real quick. Anyways, Boros is also known for his ridiculous regeneration, which allows him to come back from attacks that can quite literally turn him into bits and pieces. However, this only lasts for a minute, and without his full powered state, base Boros is like regenerating basic limbs at best, which is really nothing too crazy. Aside from his regeneration, he's mainly known for his flight and ability to shoot energy. He's a little bit of a power merchant, but even despite this, he's still one of the strongest beings to step foot in the One Punch Man universe. Now, let's see where he stacks up in comparison to the Invincible verse.
The best feat that you're going to have to tie these two together is going to be Omni-Man catching the meteor. Again, there's not really much of a reason for Nolan to overhype this. It's a meteor the size of Texas. When you calculate it, it's about 271 petatons. Conquest should be stronger than Nolan. It's said multiple times in the show. If you're unsure, just go watch Tylearn's video, not the point of this video. So then Mark should scale to that version of Conquest, but we're going to put context into account, right? Mark is definitely adrenaline boosted when he's beating up Conquest. This was stated in Penvincibles. It's pretty self-explanatory, but the reason why I don't think that really matters all too much is because when Boros comes down and he's going to start talking to Mark about wanting to wipe out the planet and do a whole bunch of evil nonsense, Mark is probably going to find himself adrenaline boosted regardless, right? So making the argument that Mark, in theory, would only scale above Nolan when he's adrenaline boosted doesn't really matter because he's probably going to be adrenaline boosted against Boros, right? So just to wrap it up, pretty simple AP scaling for Invincible. Omni-Man can catch a meteor the size of Texas, Conquest should be stronger than Omni-Man, and Mark, while adrenaline boosted, should be able to damage that Conquest. Even if you don't think he's stronger, he definitely scales to around that level and can clearly damage Conquest. Like, this isn't even debatable. Some pretty simple speed scaling for Invincible would be Mark taking Alan all the way to the moon. This has been calced to be around relativistic to even hypersonic in some calcs, but the calcs could be, I want to say, like, kind of weird. They calculate how many words per second he's speaking in some of the calcs, and it could get kind of weird, but there's much better scaling and much more consistent scaling, even if you don't want to take the Mark taking Alan to the moon thing.
So in the show version of Invincible specifically, it's kind of weird to argue MFTL stuff in contrast to the comics. And to be honest, I don't think Mark really scales to Omni-Man by this point in the series. We still have Mark and even Conquest traveling out to space pretty much instantaneously, and Mark even did this as early as season 1. Putting his base speed around relativistic to potentially speed of light, with him more than likely being beyond the speed of light while adrenaline boosted.
We don't really have to get into hacks because Invincible really isn't all that versatile. He just gets a rage boost and he has a lot of resistances, so now we can get into the actual matchup.
When comparing just their raw attack potency, it's pretty clear that Boros without statements is significantly weaker than the likes of Omni-Man's meteor feat. As when comparing even Omni-Man's lower end, he should be about 4 times stronger than Saitama's first ever serious punch, which, for reference, completely obliterated Boros' strongest attack, strongest transformation, and did so much damage that he couldn't even regenerate. Mark, while enraged, is more than capable of doing this, and if they went to strike blow for blow like he did with Conquest, Boros' arm probably is just going to get so destroyed that he's not even going to be able to regenerate. Now, of course, the argument of Mark holding back could allow Boros to at least get the jump on Mark even in his weaker forms, but Mark by this point knows that he can't hesitate to kill, and is going to be showing off power comparable to when he's fighting his strongest foes.
Boros' minions and his ship wouldn't really be a problem either, as Earth has strong enough heroes to take down weaker villains, and another problem for Boros is going to be speed. At this point, Mark should be multiple times faster than him even when Boros is going beyond his physical limit. Mark could just pummel and stall Boros long enough to wear out Meteoric Burst and just throw him into the sun.
Boros would get mid-diff by Invincible by the end of Season 3. Adam Eve would probably handle Melzagard along with Gurenshoop, or however how you say his name. And Jaded is washed. Yep, grass is green, guys.
Okay,
alright,
wow,
so
thank you.
Thank you very much for watching.
Tylern is small, Tylern is weak.
Hey,
130
what?
pounds.
You're like 2 tons.
130 pounds on test, by the way.
But thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to go subscribe to Jaded. His channel is very cool and very awesome. And be sure to subscribe to my channel if you're new. And I'll see you guys in the next one.